welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at two really contradictory worlds.
Right.
On one hand, you have the flawed, predictable wiring of our own brains, and on the other, the cold, deliberate logic of the world's most successful strategists.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to connect those mental traps we all fall into, these biases, with the actual systems that elite investors and entrepreneurs use to get around them. People like Peter Thiel, Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio.
It's the ultimate lesson in process over intuition, really. I mean, at the very top, success isn't so much about some kind of natural genius.
No.
It's more about designing a framework that just assumes you are inherently flawed. We have to start by understanding that, cognitive biases aren't personal failings.
That's a huge point.
They're just mental shortcuts, heuristics, that evolve to save us time and energy. But in our modern complex world, they often lead to irrational, really suboptimal decisions.
So the challenge for you listening is to recognize that these patterns are just ingrained in you, and resisting them takes constant effort.
It really does.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're talking about, potentially 180 of these biases, but we're going to focus on the really high impact ones.
Yeah, the ones that really stop you from seeing reality clearly, especially when you're trying to assess, say, a business or a social opportunity.
Okay, so where do we start?
The first, and I'd argue the most dangerous in terms of just distorting your reality, is confirmation bias.
Right.
This is the tendency of the brain to seek out and just favor information that already confirms what you believe to be true.
And it actively minimizes or ignores anything that contradicts it.
Exactly.
And the professional impact of this is just massive. It's why you see executive teams hire consultants who they know are going to deliver a report that supports the CEO's pre-existing plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or, on a personal level, it's why you only follow certain news channels. You're not just confirming your beliefs, you're literally limiting the inputs your brain needs to make an objective call.
It's a really deep-seated protection mechanism. It saves mental energy, it protects your self-esteem, and it makes you feel comfortable that your view of the world is, accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what Francis Bacon meant centuries ago when he said, "Man prefers to believe what he prefers to be true." The moment you stop intentionally looking for perspectives that challenge you, you stop growing. You become rigid.
But speaking of beliefs, how do you draw the line between that kind of rigid confirmation bias and, say, the bandwagon effect or herd behavior? Because following the crowd can actually be profitable sometimes.
That's a critical distinction. The bandwagon effect is that psychological pressure to do something simply because everyone else is doing it.
Regardless of what you actually believe.
Right, regardless of the fundamentals. Think about voting patterns or how stock market bubbles inflate. Now, following that momentum can be profitable in the short term, sure.
For a little while.
But that action is based on social proof, not on economic fundamentals. If you feel that pull towards the consensus, that's when you need to hear Mark Twain's warning in your head.
What was it?
Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Consensus is often just the result of this bias, which is why it so rarely leads to outsized returns.
That sets us up perfectly for another bias that looks like success but is actually hiding massive failure: survivorship bias.
Yes.
This is where it gets really interesting because it's based on missing information. You judge something based only on the successful outcome you can see, and you completely overlook all the failures that use the exact same methods.
You see this constantly in business articles, the 5 habits of successful entrepreneurs.
Every single day.
And you try to replicate them, thinking those habits are the key. But what you're missing is the graveyard of thousands of businesses and people who followed that exact same routine and still failed. You're focused only on the winners.
So this bias just leads to these wildly optimistic beliefs.
And it causes you to disregard the sheer odds of failure. Like the fact that only a tiny fraction of startups even survive their first 5 years. You're miscalculating risk because half the data is just invisible to you.
Okay, so we've established our brains seek comfort, follow the crowd. Now let's get into how these programmed errors start costing us real money by skewing how we see value and risk.
Let's start with a classic negotiation trap: anchoring bias. This is the tendency to just fixate on the very first piece of information you get. That's the anchor.
And then everything else is judged relative to that anchor.
Exactly, even if the anchor itself is completely meaningless.
I fell for this recently. I was looking at some new tech. The initial premium model I saw was priced at $2,000. It set the bar so high that when I saw the second model, which was just okay, but priced at $800, it felt like a steal.
Of course it
even though I knew, objectively, the true value of that $800 model was probably closer to $500.
That's a perfect example. That initial $2,000 created an emotional ceiling. It completely influenced your internal valuation. It happens all the time in real estate. The first asking price, even if it's ridiculous, often dictates the entire range of offers that come after it.
Okay, so if anchoring is about getting locked into a bad starting number, its financial cousin has to be the sunk cost fallacy.
Or escalation of commitment, yeah.
This is where human nature really clashes with rational thinking, because we look backward and just keep throwing good money after bad simply because of what we've already spent.
It's driven by the desire to avoid the pain of realizing you have a loss. I remember a corporate case where a huge R&D project had already sunk nearly $70 million.
Wow.
And the leadership, against every emotional urge, they recognized that the future commercial outcome was just not attractive.
Oh.
So they made the incredibly painful but necessary choice to write off that $70 million and cancel the project immediately.
That requires a radical commitment to only looking forward.
It's the only way. That ability to walk away from $70 million, that's the definition of mastering this bias.
And another huge derailer is optimism bias. We just naturally overestimate positive events and underestimate negative ones.
Which is exactly why major investment proposals, especially corporate ones, often look way too rosy. They consistently overstate the upside and just kind of glide over the downside risks.
The brain just tells you, oh, that won't happen to me.
Right. The best antidote is to be an optimistic pragmatist. You believe in success, sure, but relentlessly ground every single decision in a clear, measured assessment of the risks.
And finally, in the script, the framing effect. This is maybe the simplest, but also the most powerful marketing tool out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it shows that decisions are based on how information is presented to you, and not the objective facts alone.
You see it everywhere. If a doctor says a procedure has a 95% survival rate, you feel great about it. If they say it has a 5% mortality rate, you're much more likely to hesitate. It's the exact same data. But that framing sways everything from consumer choice to political policy.
So now we understand the internal obstacles. We confirm our beliefs, we follow the herd, we get angered, we stick with failed projects. How do the elite strategists actually build systems, their playbooks, to resist these deeply human weaknesses?
This is the playbook for escaping consensus. And for that, we have to start with Peter Thiel. His whole philosophy is an explicit, strategic counter to confirmation bias and the bandwagon effect.
He argues that the biggest returns come from investing in ideas that are non-consensus at the time of the investment and turn out to be right. What does that actually mean, though? Is he just looking for market inefficiencies?
It's deeper than that. He's looking for secrets. A secret is a profound, unique insight about the world that other people haven't realized, or that they actively dismiss because it contradicts their accepted reality.
So he wants the idea that everyone else is confirming is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because he knows that consensus kills any chance of outsized returns. PayPal's secret wasn't just about digital payments. It was the inevitability of digital trust. Facebook's secret was people's deep, latent interest in observing the lives of other people.
And that focus leads him to his 0 to 1 rule, creating something brand new, not just copying what works, which is 1 to N. And crucially, he seeks out companies with a monopoly.
Absolutely. The pursuit of monopoly is the recognition that competition just drives profits down and encourages short-term thinking. Thiel wants monopoly-like companies because they have zero real competition and a huge growing market that frees them up.
Now let's switch gears to Warren Buffett. He's famous for buying and holding forever, saying stocks are ownership in real businesses, not just, squiggly lines on a chart.
Right.
But in a world that changes this fast, how does buy and hold permanently not just become a massive sunk cost fallacy itself?
Because his primary filter is the economic moat. Buffett is looking for durability, which is the exact opposite of getting emotionally stuck in a failed project. The moat is a sustainable competitive advantage that protects a company's profits and market share over the long haul. He famously described it as a wide and long-lasting moat around it, protecting a terrific economic castle.
So the moats are the system that shields you from uncertainty. What are the strongest sources for a moat?
They fall into a few categories. You have tangible moats, like being the absolute low-cost producer, or owning invaluable assets like brands and patents.
Sure.
But the behavioral moats are even stronger. Things like network effects, where the value of a product just grows exponentially with every new user, think Visa or Facebook.
Or high switching costs.
Exactly, where you're essentially locked into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Buffett's whole strategy is counterintuitive. When economic uncertainty hits, you strategically strengthen your moat while your competitors are panicking and retreating to short-term sales tactics.
Moving on to Ray Dalio, he tries to systematize this whole process. He sees markets as these interconnected machines, and he prioritizes rules-based analysis over gut instinct.
Which, again, is the systemic counter to our natural biases. And this is where he brings in George Soros' concept of reflexivity.
Okay, what's that?
Dalio says, you shouldn't bet against a hot trend too early. You have to respect momentum. But reflexivity explains why bubbles form and burst. It's the idea that market prices aren't just passive reflections of reality.
They actually influence reality.
They actively influence reality through the perceptions of the people in the market.
So the collective belief that something is valuable drives the price up, which then reinforces the belief, creating this false feedback loop.
Precisely. That's how the dot-com bubble or the housing crisis got so inflated, far beyond any real underlying value. Soros made his name by spotting those massive divergences, seeing the point where that reflexive loop becomes totally detached from reality, and then making these huge anti-consensus bets.
These are literally systems designed to profit from the failure of the herd's biased thinking. That brings us to our final section, the actionable frameworks that entrepreneurs use to find those gaps, the opportunities hidden from the consensus. We need tools to find that white space.
The first, simplest one for a startup is the 10x rule. If you want to build a successful company, you have to be 10 times easier, faster, or better than the incumbent solution.
Right. Amazon did this initially by offering 10 times the selection of books of any physical store. You have to give people a benefit that's so disproportionate they're almost forced to switch.
And often that 10x improvement is found by focusing on pain points, the disruption focus.
Uber targeted the sheer inconvenience of calling a taxi. Airbnb targeted the cost and impersonal nature of hotels. But how do you systematically find the pain points everyone else is missing?
That's where white space analysis comes in as a formal research method. The goal is to discover totally untapped market opportunities. And the best evidence isn't a survey.
No.
It's a customer workaround.
The workaround. I love this concept. If you see customers hacking a product using sticky notes to solve a digital problem, or modifying software to connect two programs that weren't designed to connect,
that is a screamingly clear signal that there is a missing opportunity. They're telling you exactly what they need.
it's the ultimate antidote to confirmation bias, because the customer is confirming what they wish they had.
Not what the incumbent company wishes they would buy. And in really complex fields like, say, pharmaceutical R&D, finding a white space requires this dual lens view. You have to prove there's a significant unmet medical need and see a clear path to durable commercialization, protected by patents.
And since we know the herd is biased towards what's already visible, we also need tools to spot the brand new trends.
Right, weak signal detection. Finding those hardly discernible tracks, anticipating an earthquake.
So what are these signals?
They're subtle, early indicators. New tech, fringe behaviors, emerging research that's sitting at the edge of public opinion, but could signal a huge future disruption. You find them through methodical horizon, scanning monitoring patents, academic papers, unusual job listings, or even just social listening in niche forums.
You're fighting anchoring bias by refusing to be tethered to the current reality.
Exactly.
So finally, once the entrepreneur finds that white space, the ultimate reality check, which fights that inevitable optimism bias, is securing investment. What does the evidence need to show?
Investors need market validation. They have to see proof that you can scale this. That means showing strong traction, consistent, measurable growth, high user engagement, and most importantly, testimonials that prove people are willing to pay for your solution.
This data forces the founder to ground their optimism in measurable reality.
It protects both them and the investor from their own internal biases.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've covered why your brain is programmed for shortcuts and how the world's most successful people build systems to actively resist those urges.
I think the central lesson is that the only way to combat cognitive bias is to assume it is always present. It's affecting every single decision you make. You have to stop operating on intuitive autopilot.
And force yourself into deliberate, critical thinking.
Yeah.
So your practical steps today are, first, intentionally seek out information that contradicts your existing beliefs. Force feed your brain some complexity. And second, and this is maybe the most important, regularly ask the crucial question of anyone presenting you with information. What is your evidence for that?
And here's a provocative thought to leave you with. We mentioned the Dunning-Kruger effect, sometimes called the knowledge illusion.
Right, where people with low competence vastly overestimate their ability.
Exactly. But the catch is that the very qualities required to be truly good at a complex task, nuance, self-assessment, and awareness of your own limits, are often the same ones needed to recognize your own lack of ability.
That's the paradox.
It is, and it raises a really important question. In a complex world defined by uncertainty, how do we accurately gauge our own level of expertise and ensure we aren't so confident in our process that we become our own biggest mental obstacle?